Welcome to episode 3 of Isle of Scáth. Oh, do forgive me, I accidentally said 3 in French. It's so difficult being bilingual. Last week we added our first flat ride to the park and I'm still not sure I've recovered from the excitement. Sometimes in Planco it's okay to just build things purely from an aesthetic point of view. Spend 3 hours building a non-functioning car park. Create a bar that no guest will ever use. It's okay, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. A bar is exactly what we'll be working on today, as well as a stage and a fire pit. I know, terribly exciting. If I know anything about rich folk, they sure do love a spot of jazz while sipping an alcoholic beverage. I think jazz is stupid. I mean, just play the right notes. Anyway, let's crack on. As has become customary on the channel, I started off by making some terrain adjustments. I'm not a fan of the standard rock texture, so I created a rock wall using actual rocks with some foliage in between. Next, I made a start on our stage. I began with the framework using the facade scaffolding from the Ghostbusters DLC. I then used art shapes to create the stage floor. Rectangular stages are boring, so as usual I added some alternate angles. Using the same pieces, I created some frontage for our rostrum. Our stage needs a backdrop, which I created using more scaffolding, trussing, and then our wonderful park logo slap bang in the middle. Due to the way I created the logo, the backside doesn't look too great, so I fixed the whole thing to a black frame. As this is a fancy stage to go in a fancy park, I created some gold detailing using some statue pieces. I added some moving lights to the truss before adding a piano and mic to the stage. Well, that terrible jazz has to come from somewhere. Once again, taking direct reference from Hitman, I wanted a bar directly in front of the stage. I created this using more basic shapes and then lit panels for some neon. Our bar of course needs some bar staff, so I use some animatronics as they're much more well behaved than real people. I created a shelf behind the bar which I later populated with all sorts of clutter off camera. Whilst having the time of my life with art shapes, I realised I hadn't added any speakers to the stage. I know, nobody would be able to hear that wonderful jazz. Perhaps it was subconscious. I created a line array using speakers and cables hung from another piece of truss. Our musicians need to hear themselves, God help them, so I placed down some monitors and connected them with cables. Our stage needs some access, so I built some stairs out of more art shapes. Moving backstage, I popped down some technical equipment, and then created some sort of amp rack or power distro unit. I don't know, it just looks important. What's a stage without some dry ice? I added some piping and then hid some smoke effects inside. I created some custom lamps to go on the bar, matching the gold from the stage floor. Once again, in the Hitman map Isle of Scale, there's a giant fire pit where the wealthy throw in some cash to truly demonstrate how disgustingly rich they are. Whether our guests decide to burn their money is up to them, but I created said pit out of art shapes, planks, coal, TMTK cables, and of course a couple of fire effects. I added some more built up snow around the edge of the fire pit to demonstrate, I don't know, something about fire and ice, the elements? You figure it out. I'm sure a lot of you are having a nervous breakdown about health and safety. Well, whilst it's not too much of a concern at this secret park hidden in the middle of the Atlantic, here, have a couple of extinguishers. Okay, I can tell you're still worried, so I'll add a water hose to the wall as well as an AED. Happy? Right, with all that nonsense out of the way, it's about time to wrap up. Next week, maybe I'll think about adding another ride, but no promises. Until then.